I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe. The reason writing this book was that I am very fearful of a new war in Europe, and I don't like to have this situation again, because war is never coming from itself. There is always people behind it to push for war. And this is not only politicians, this is journalists too. And I just have written in the book how we have betrayed in the past our readers just to push for war, and because I don't want this anymore. I'm fed up with this propaganda. We live in a banana republic and not in a democratic country where we have press freedom, where we have human rights. If you see the German media, especially my colleagues who day by day write against the Russians, who are in transatlantic organizations and who are supported by the United States to do so, well, people like me, I became an honorary citizen of the state of Oklahoma in the United States. Just why? Just because I write pro-American. I wrote pro-American. I was supported by the Central Intelligence Agency, by the CIA. Why? Because I should be pro-American. I'm fed up with it. I don't want to do it anymore. And so I've just written a book not to earn money. No, it will cause a lot of trouble for me, just to give the people in this country, in Germany, in Europe, and all over the world, just to give them a glimpse of a view what goes up behind the closed doors.
Kal halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom Yasharala. I want to say one of the elders of Great Millstone already did a lesson on the news being used as a tool for propaganda and how the mainstream media has been all out sanctioned to lie to you, using this very same footage from RT. Because it escapes me as to who, I thought what better time than to revisit the subject, especially given the fear-mongering taking place on behalf of the corporate media regarding the vaccine, the CV-19, and the several so-called UFO sightings as of late. And what better reason than to delve back into this interview of German journalist Udo Ulfkott, I hope I'm saying his name right, who claimed he was repeatedly propositioned by the international bankers and the CIA to manipulate news stories, and how the CIA controls much of Western media. This is Psalms chapter 64, verse 8, and it reads, "So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away." Indicative of the whistleblowing you're seeing take place surrounding the insurmountable proof of corruption by not only the journalists and mainstream reporters who have played an integral part themselves, whose real job is to simply cover the story, but also the industry insiders, those of the wicked elite responsible for fueling, oiling, and running the machine. Even they are finding themselves in precarious situations, having Freudian slips, basically guilty of saying two words too much. This particular interview, I want to say, was from 2014, but the idea still resonates today. Big Pharma and the CDC are constantly under fire for hiding death data, but at the same time propagating and promoting a vaccine they know has proven to be unsafe. Never mind the most recent narrative of how CV-19 was unleashed on the public, and then there's the forthcoming Pentagon report on unidentified aerial phenomenon, what the media refers to as UFOs, we know to be the chariots of the Lord. I'm interested to see what supposed truths they are forced to reveal in that matter. Here is an excerpt from a 2014 post about Udo Ulfkott's experience with the feds and international bankers as a representative of mainstream media, entitled Non-Official Cover, Respected German Journalist Blows Whistle on How the CIA Controls the Media. And it reads, I was bribed by billionaires, I was bribed by the Americans to report not exactly the truth. This is Psalms chapter 52, verse 3, and it reads, Thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness, Salah. This revelation of American media fueling the propaganda war machine against Russia, which, truthfully speaking, both sides have been accused of disinformation and to some extent are equally responsible, because ultimately the men behind the curtain creating and instigating all the madness have no side to choose, because they aren't on any particular side. It's the haves versus the have-nots, the 1% versus everybody else. And to bring about total control, they've employed the tactics of order ab chaos, order out of chaos, and the tactics of divide and conquer. A good example of that as it relates to Israel, we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians, is the so-called East Coast, West Coast hip-hop beef of the 90s, which honestly would have never resulted in any beef if the mainstream media didn't instigate it, perpetuate it, throwing gasoline on the fire, legitimizing it by the constant attention they placed on it, making it appear as more than it really was. Who stood to benefit more from the bad press and records being sold? More than the actual artists themselves earning pennies on the dollar was the major labels, the elite handlers and their owners. More than the money, though, was the ability to divide us like they've always done since the times of Gad and the Buffalo Soldiers. More than being able to better control us because of our division is the ability to take advantage of the atmosphere of hate and mistrust amongst us and use it to further marginalize us in an attempt to deny us from becoming more self-reliant, sufficient, and basically block the opportunity for us to climb out from underneath their subjection, to speak from a position of power and wealth. Kind of like a lot of our own do today, but all of it, including the role Esau played pursuant to the curses of Deuteronomy 28, was part and parcel of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai's will and judgment. Non-official cover is when a journalist essentially works for the CIA, but not in a official capacity. Here's a quote regarding non-official cover I pulled off of social media, and it reads, This allows both parties to reap the rewards of the partnership, while at the same time giving both sides plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is, and I'll put the Wikipedia definition on the screen for those not in the know. Plausible deniability is the ability of people, typically senior officials in a formal or informal chain of command, to deny knowledge of or responsibility for any damnable actions committed by others in an organizational hierarchy because of a lack of absence of evidence that can confirm their participation, even if they were personally involved in or at least willfully ignorant of the actions. Y'all can Google the rest of the definition. The CIA will find young journalists and mentor them. Suddenly doors will open up, rewards will be given, and before you know it, you owe your entire career to them. I would add, after that exchange, no matter the request, it's tremendously hard for any already bought and paid for talking head to say no to any advances made by the CIA or the elite. Incidentally, the signing of H.R. 4310, the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDA Act by Barack Obama, some will say didn't give the media carte blanche to lie to the public. What it did do was remove the restrictions on news programs funded by the government. Quote unquote, it removed limitations on U.S. funded and generated content from being aired in the country. Still doesn't mean that propaganda wasn't being used as a tool when you consider some of the programs included in the legislation were Voice of America, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Radio Free Asia, and Middle East broadcasting networks. That being said, no matter how long and hard you try to explain this to those who are not informed that this type of thing has been going on since time immemorial, which is why you should think twice about what corporate news tells you regarding UFO sightings, the actual inception of CV-19, meaning exactly where it came from, fruit bats, pig shit, or a lab accident, or whatever, or how safe it is to take the stab and jab. Most just can't accept it, refuse to believe their favorite news personality actually reads from the same script almost all the syndicated news sources read from. Really, because Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai has blocked their vision, okay? Romans 11:7 says this: What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. According as it is written, the Most High hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, unto this day. Really, this speaks to the elect of Israel believing, understanding, as well as participating in the teaching of this truth. But knowing evil and being aware of Satan's devices, 2 Corinthians 2:11, I believe, is a major part of acquiring the balance of understanding given to the elect. I digress. So let's close with this. This is Revelation chapter 20, verse 7, and it reads, And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. The name Satan simply means adversary, enemy, one who withstands in the Hebrew. In the Greek, accuser. Esau is and has been the enemy of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians since the beginning, but really since the time he was bound during the rulership of the Byzantine Empire, truthfully hundreds of years before even that, until the end of the 1400s, where he was loosed onto the world during the Renaissance period, where they began their artful deception by whitewashing and covering the likeness of the saints, the prophets, and judges pursuant to Job 9:24 with their own likeness. Revelation 20:8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, speaking to the prophecy of Russia, Turkey, Iran, and the other confederate nations leading to the war of Armageddon, written of in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. Now the greatest deception perpetrated, without a shadow of a doubt, was fooling the world into believing the Most High and his Son were so-called white people, which nobody is truly black or white. You're either brown or red. What this did simultaneously was predicate the greatest lie ever told, that the devil himself didn't exist. This is how Esau, through Cristobal Colon, you may know him as Christopher Columbus, and the papal bulls being edicts declared by the Catholic Church, went to war with the saints, and he's been lying and thieving ever since. Verse 9, and they went up on the breadth of the earth and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from the Most High out of heaven, and devoured them. Camp of the saints is in reference to the nation of Israel. The physical camp is Palestine, the beloved city, Palestine, Israel, and Jerusalem, and the people of that region. That fire is the thermonuclear missiles and the lasers from the so-called UFOs we've long identified, starting with the elder apostles on down, as the chariots of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Lord, his Son, Yahweh Shai. This is Revelation 20:10, and it reads, And the devil that deceived them was cast out into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night, forever and ever. The devil here is not the spiritual demon Satan. Satan is a fixed and permanent member of the sons of the Heavenly Father, and works on behalf of the Lord on the left-hand side. The devil spoken of here is Esau, Edom, the nation of Edom, the Edomites, starting with your international bankers. The beast, again, is Esau, America, which is Babylon, NATO and her EU allies. The false prophet here is speaking of Catholicism and the several churches, i.e. religious followings and doctrines that came out of it. Just so you know, that same German journalist, Udo Olfkott, who blew the whistle on the CIA back in 2014, died 3 years later. You know the CIA has a heart attack gun, right? But I guess that is just more propaganda, because they don't really kill people who tell their secrets, do they? Kal halal Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai Ba'Shem HaKakodash, to the power and spirit. I hope you were edified. Double honors unto the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who teach this 100% truth and rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom Yasharallah. Remember, don't take that test. Take that jab. Damn sure, don't take that chip. Wa Abba Babal.
Sometimes the intelligence agencies, they come to your office and want you to write an article. I give you an example not from strange other journalists, from me myself. I've just forgotten the year. I just remember that the German Foreign Intelligence, Bundesnachrichtendienst, it is just a sister organization of the Central Intelligence Agency. It was founded by the American Intelligence Agency. So one day, the BND, this German Foreign Intelligence Agency, came to my office at the Frankfurter Allgemeine in Frankfurt. And they wanted me to write an article about Libya and about Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I had absolutely no secret informations regarding Colonel Muammar Gaddafi and Libya. But they gave me all these secret informations, and they just wanted me to write, to sign the article with my name. I did that, but it was an article that was published in the Frankfurter Allgemeine that originally came from the Bundesnachrichtendienst, from the German Foreign Intelligence Agency. So do you really think that this is journalism, intelligence agencies writing articles?